All right, Gil Ash, welcome to the Guns and Ammo Buzz podcast. Today we're joined by Eric Poole, editor-in-chief of the magazine, and I am Jack Oller, managing editor of Guns and Ammo. So what kicked this all off is just this past weekend, I joined you for one of your travel clinics, the Optimum Shotgun Performance School. Now, Gil, you've been teaching sporting shotguns for more than 35 years now. Let's start, I think, tell us a little bit about yourself, what got you into shotguns to start, and just give us an overview of your career of 35 years teaching the shotgun sports.
Well, when sporting clays first came to this country back in 1983, April, the first sporting clays range in this country opened about 20 minutes from my house. And I read an article about it that Bob Brister wrote in the Houston Chronicle, and I set out to try to find it. And then about an hour and a half later, I finally found it. And it was called Champion Lake Gun Club, a small little gun club that I called my home from then on. The first round that I shot, I missed the last bird because my semi-automatic malfunctioned. And the first tournament I shot in, I ran 100 straight, which was uncalled for, which was unprecedented. And at that point in time, I was gut hooked. I'd been a skeet shooter along with my wife Vicky, but I was hooked on sporting clays, and I couldn't get enough of it. And we shot competitions all over the country. We were among 12 or 14 shooters that were traveling around the country to the first sporting clays ranges, and we shot competitions, and we typically won. And we had a sponsor, Estate Cartridge, and they always sent a 20-box case of 8s, 9s, and 7.5s to every tournament we went to, and we had ammo left over. So back then it was all hand traps, and so we had everybody that won a trophy come up, and we gave them ammo and told them to go sit on the stations. And then all of the pullers and the scorekeepers walked around with us, and we let them use our ammo. And the guys that won trophies pulled the targets, and we taught them how to shoot sporting clays. Not long after that, I went to the Illinois State shoot and shot with 4 guys. And I won the shoot. And the following Tuesday, one of them called me and said, what would you charge us to come up here and teach us to do what you do? And the first thing out of my mouth was, you'll have to pay for the Jack Daniels. And so we got the important stuff out of the way, and I shot him a number, and they said, when you get here, I went up there and spent Friday afternoon, Saturday, and half day Sunday with them. And about a month and a half later, 4 other groups of guys called me from the same area and said, what would you charge us to come up here and teach us what you taught the other guys? And I said, well, I can teach you everything I taught them, but now we're talking about the size of the tip. So if y'all want to know everything, I'll be glad to tell you everything. And that's just how it started. And Vicky and I was a commercial photographer at the time, and made a lot of money in photography for Exxon, DuPont, Dow Chemical, doing annual reports and advertising stuff. And photography was going digital, and I didn't want to have to learn how to run a computer. So I looked at Vicky, and she looked at me, and I said, let's sell this thing. We have no debt, kids' college paid for. We were great financially, and let's just travel around the country and shoot. She said, let's do it. And we made a 2-year goal and a 5-year goal. And at the end of the second year, we hit our 5-year target. And now 16 books, thousands of articles and videos all over the web, all over the internet. We're still doing it. And as long as it's not work, we'll keep doing it.
That was that tickled me when we're at your travel clinic, and I asked you, like, do you still get a rush when you see somebody, you see the light bulb go on, and you said, oh, absolutely, that's why we keep doing it. And that brings me joy, because you can see instructor. I've been with instructors that shoot rifle and pistol, and it's a job at a certain point. But for you guys, like you and your son Brian and your wife Vicky, you still get a kick out of seeing that light bulb go on in someone's head when they start connecting with targets and they figure out. My 2 key takeaways: look at the target and match the speed. Like, those are, like, that's Boy, if you can figure that out, then sporting clays is almost easy, within 30 yards. You get beyond that, it definitely starts getting trickier. But, like that, I remember like distinctively when that light bulb went off in my head. And so we were at the Rock Ridge Sportsmens Club. It was outside Rockford, Illinois. Tell us about your typical travel clinics. Somebody wants to come learn how to shoot sporting clays. What does that process look like for you guys, and what do they need to know before getting to your clinic to have a successful experience?
In order to come to our clinic, you have to be able to shoot at least 50% on skeet, trap, or sporting clays. Because of the group dynamic, if we got somebody that's never mounted a gun before, they're not going to fit in with the group. So that's first priority. Second priority is we recommend you shoot with us for 2 days. And you just experienced this, Jack.
Right.
The first part of the first day is really deprogramming and getting rid of the mythology in people's heads and introducing our system to it. Because in the beginning, the thing that everybody talks about in the beginning when they're trying to shoot a shotgun is about lead. What we have discovered is an area in your brain that the baseball player uses to hit and catch, that the tennis player uses to hit the tennis ball. If you're in an athletic endeavor, hand-to-eye coordination, there's an area of your brain that does two things automatically. It creates converging lines, and it anticipates ahead of where you are. We have discovered a sequence of training events that will set up the brain's ability to fix the lead every single time while you're matching the speed. So the first half of the first day is really deprogramming and introducing this simple system that's based on breakthrough neuroscience so that the shooters don't have to worry about the lead. The problem most shooters have is they're looking down the barrel. Because when you were 6 months, ever since you were 6 months old, you've been pointing right at everything you ever looked at.
Right.
So the aiming, what we call the aiming influence, is strong within the brain. When you mount that shotgun, you want to look right down that barrel. But if you're looking at the target and down the barrel at the same time, you're behind. So, and what that looks like to each individual is individual. Because of a phenomenon called physiological diplopia, when you focus on a distant object, say you hold your thumb, and the viewers can do this right now, just look at a light switch in the room and hold your thumb right underneath that light switch at arm's length. Looking at the light switch, you're going to see two thumbs.
Right.
Now, look at your thumb and you see two light switches. So what it looks like to look at an object at 30 yards and align an object 35 inches in front of your nose to the right or the left of it is a learned art. And nobody comes out of the womb knowing what it looks like. And we have studied this, the neurology behind this, and have changed how we teach 5 times completely in the last 35 years based on recent discoveries in neuroscience and really based on sports vision and the new industry that sports vision has created. So I'm going to just say the first half is understanding the system. The second half is just being amazed at the system. But the second day is really important simply because we've gotten you to the point to where you're doing it. And now you've created memory. And the second day you can use that memory to broaden your brain's ability to shoot targets from all different angles.
You bring up an interesting point. You said you had 8 significant changes over the last 35 years. And so Eric's joining us on the call today too. And almost to the date, he took his travel clinic with you 15 years ago. And I believe you said 8 years ago was the last significant you changed. What was that exactly? Like that last major change? And do you see any big ones coming up in the near future?
We stopped teaching people how to hit the target and taught them how to self-correct. If you don't match the speed, you can't self-correct because there's too many variables in the success or the failure. If are the same, when you take the shot, what you saw becomes real. Therefore, you can replicate or you can correct. But if the gun speed and the bird speed are not the same, there are too many variables for you to make a one-shot correction.
And that was one of my big takeaways on top of that was it was uncomfortable first, but then once you accept that it's going to be a little uncomfortable changing how you've been doing things, then that light bulb goes off. And I could walk up to a stage that I'd never seen before and I'd clean the stage because I walk up and and that's the other thing. The stage doesn't matter which way the bird's coming from. If you can match the target speed and keep your eye on the target, you're going to break clays. And that was huge. And then on top of that, boy, eye-opening length of pull. I'm 6'4", and I realized that I've been shooting scrunched over on shotguns my entire life. And I just thought, 14 and a, 3/4, maybe 15 inches is the longest length of pull, but I need a full 16 and change. And so, for the travel clinic with you guys, I brought the new for 2025 825 Citori from Browning. Really like the gun, but they've never made a shotgun for a 6'4" individual, and so which you understand, right? They're making shotguns for everybody, and that length of pull is going to be fine for many people. But we put a Galco recoil pad on the end of that with some spacers in there, and then all of a sudden I noticed the recoil impulse just shrunk. And not that a 12 gauge is like a hard recoiling gun, but when my hands get farther out there, it's a lot easier to get that sight picture that we talked about a little bit. And I was pretty blown away by the recoil reduction by having the right length of pull set up. Talk to me a little bit. What is, you've been fitting custom stocks for people for years now. What are you looking for when you're looking at somebody to, fit them for a stock? And tell us a little bit more about how length of pull plays into shooting sporting clays.
The body's made proportionately. Fingertip to fingertip, when you hold your arms out this way, is equal to an inch to an inch and a half of your height. What we look for is an equilateral triangle from the shoulder to the elbow to the hand and back to the shoulder. When you achieve that, as you pull the trigger on the shotgun, you hold on to it to get ready for recoil. When you have that triangle there, when you hold on to it, the arms act like a shock absorber, so they take 60% of the recoil. The recoil's there regardless, but it's not 100% of it is not hitting you right in the shoulder, because if it's too short, your wrist is cocked, and the bones in the wrist are all square. And when the wrist is cocked, the brain knows if it holds onto that gun with your wrist like that, it's going to hurt. So it in your wrist, so it just lets it hit you in the shoulder. But if we can get that wrist straight and that triangle right there, and about 1.5 to 2.5 finger widths from your thumb knuckle to your nose, we can set that up. It varies based on neck length. Some people don't have a neck. Some people have a 7-inch neck. It's just, but there's some general guidelines that we go for. But the bottom line is, when you hold on to that gun, if your wrist is straight, you take 60% of the recoil in your hands and arms, which is why guns that are fitted kick less.
Gil, let me get in on this too. So a lot of modern shotguns today include shims and spacers for adjusting length of pull and cast on, cast off. Do you find, especially with the students you have, that those are necessary or useful? Are they gimmicky? And how often do you go to the shim, cast on, cast off, spacers to adjust the shotgun to ideally perfect that fitment? Do you feel like a lot of people are just chasing perfection that they don't understand? Do they need to seek out someone like you in order to get their shotgun properly fitted? How do guns typically come out of the box?
Prepare for a shocker. If you're right-handed and you shoot a gun off the shelf, if you're looking here, your gun's going to shoot high left about 12 inches. And if you're left-handed and you're looking here, it's going to shoot high right about 12 inches, because there is not a gun that comes off the shelf that has enough cast in it. Brian and I cut 2 or 3 combs a week. People fly into Houston just for us to cut their combs down so that they'll fit. And it's that I'm fishing for business here, but I'm not. I got all I want. But it's been our experience. We have Krieghoffs that have custom stocks on them. When I take my gun to a clinic and I let somebody use it, they can't miss with it, and they can't mismount it. We have numerous times been shooting 50-yard crossers with shooters, and they can't hit it with their gun because understand the deviation I talked about 12 inches, is at 16 yards. At 50 yards, that deviation has almost tripled. So the deviation is exponential at distance, which is why people can't hit long crossers. And so the typical mantra, if the guy's right-handed, he'll come to us and he'll say, if that bird's going rising right to left, I can't miss it. But if it's going rising left to right, I can't hit it. But if his gun shoots high left, if it's rising left to right, look what happens. He's got built-in lead. Going to the left, it doesn't shoot where he looks. So he's really dumbfounded. So it's I'll tell you this, Beretta A400, they have shims. Put the 65DX shim in it, and if you're right-handed, or the 65SX shim in it, and that'll be the one in the marketplace that's the closest to fitting you right out of the box. All the over and unders don't have near enough cast in them. And what we do, as I was talking a while ago, when I take my gun and give it to somebody, they can't miss with it, and they're amazed at how they can't mismount it. But my gun has a half inch cast, a little over a half-inch cast at the heel, which means the stock is bent a half inch that way. And so when I mount the gun, here's my shoulder, my eyes here, that offset is perfect for me. And interestingly enough, it's perfect for everyone if you're right-handed. My son's left-handed. When we built his stock, we put the same amount of cast. It just mirrors the cast and drop in my stock to a left-handed. If there's somebody that's left-handed, they pick his gun up and say, I want to buy this gun. You can't have that gun. We can make you a stock. But it's almost instantaneous when somebody picks up one of our guns, because our guns have so much cast in them. And I shot Brownings in the beginning. The Brownings special sporting clays and lightning editions were evolutions of the first sporting gun that I made on a Browning frame. Then we shot for Beretta for 10 or 12 years, and their combs were this wide. And I tried to get them to lower them and narrow them, and they wouldn't do it. And we've shot for Krieghoff for 23 years, and they're finally getting their combs more narrow and lower. If you talk to somebody, Eric, my age, 75, 76, I think, I keep forgetting my age. I think they tell me it's because I'm so old. But if you talk to somebody my age and you ask them, what was the first shotgun that you ever picked up that you could really shoot well, the first thing they're going to say is Remington 1100. It's because it had a 1.5, 2.5 drop, and the width of the comb was the width of my index finger. The width of the combs now are twice that, which means that all the stocks need to have more cast to them. So instead of putting more cast, we just go in and put them on a belt sander and cut them down until the person that's there, they mount. Well, you're going the right direction. Keep going. Go in the right direction. And when they say, wow, that's when we put some finish on it and take them to the range.
Now, length of pole, are you measuring to an exact fitment of length of pole, or do you shorten it up just a little bit to improve the mounting process? What's your attitude about that?
The first thing we do is work with posture.
Okay.
The typical person that comes to us that has shot a little bit and can shoot 12 on skeet range and can shoot 45 on sporting clays range, 45 out of 100. Their posture is more or less centered between their heels or on their back foot because the gun's heavy. When you move someone from being centered on the back foot like this, when you move them from this to putting the weight over the front foot, it pushes their cheek ahead of their shoulder. That's the real dimension. We've got to get the posture correct. And then what we'll do is what we call a novice gun fit. We'll get it close, and then we'll put them in a clinic, or we'll tell them to go shoot it for a month and a half, go shoot 5 flats to it. And when they come back, they have figured out the balance point that they need based on their body. They at least have some sort of a style, and then we can adjust lengthwise whatever we need to adjust to their posture.
And do you have any thoughts in terms of rib width and any texturing or glare reduction, if you will?
Throw the high vis sights away.
Yeah,
they're great in pistol and rifle, but as Jack learned, the transition that Jack made, and Jack, jump in here now.
Yeah.
Was he went from trying to get the gun ahead of the bird to always seeing the bird behind where the barrel was pointed. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. Yes.
So when go ahead.
Well, and a big thing is like, that 825 Citori out of the box, it comes with a very bright fiber optic front sight. At first I picked it up. I remember when I first picked it up, I was like, ooh, I can see that really well. And now I realize like, well, that's not necessarily what you want. Now, what I do like is that it comes with alternate sights, so you can pop off, like I think they know that. I think they understand that, bright green off the shelf might get someone's attention, but then they're going to want to switch to something that's a bit more subdued, and here's a significant takeaway I had from the course is that those sights in that rib are not there for your conscious brain. They're there for your unconscious brain. Your unconscious brain does need the front bead, the middle bead, and the rib as an aiming reference. But if your conscious brain is looking at it, the more you look at that front sight, the less you're going to break clays, and more likely if you're looking at that front sight, if you do break a clay, odds are you got lucky, and you weren't actually aiming it properly. And so, yeah, we like the bright colors because I do like tritium night sights on my home defense pistols is a wonderful thing, but the shotgun sports are entirely different from how we shoot rifles and pistols, entirely different discipline of shooting. And so, yeah, huge takeaway. Those sights are important for your unconscious mind though. And that was significant.
What about this? Here's a bit of trivia for you. Why do shotguns have vented ribs on them? Because without a rib, if you shoot it real fast, there's a temperature inversion that comes off the top of the barrel and destroys your ability to see either side of the barrel depending on which way the wind's blowing. So when you put a vented rim on top of it, that creates a venturi, and it interrupts the aberrations that come off the hot barrel and the temperature inversions, and it allows for you to have good focus either side of the barrel.
That's interesting.
Are we referring to simply mirage?
Yes, mirage. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me go into. I've got your book. If it ain't broke, fix it.
Yes, sir.
I'm a collector of your DVDs as well. Through the years, watched those, even though now, you really got to go into your vault, your training vault, the video vault. There's more than 6,000 videos in that
Yes, sir.
vault there. It's a paywall, it's a subscription, and I'm sure that helps finance some things in there. But within it, you've got specialty videos too that talk about not only some of your neuroscience that you've learned over the years. You've got more traditional training ideas such as topics on stance. But one of my favorites is, which you almost require everybody before they attend the class, is the flashlight drill. And I'd love to hear where that flashlight drill came from and what you see in terms of a student showing up who actually practiced it before the class and those who don't.
And on top of Gil, the 3-cup drill and the 3 bullet drill, like that's like if anything, like probably even more significant. Like both are great, but yeah, that let's tell us about what are those for those listening in, and what do they do for someone coming to your course for the first time?
The flashlight drill is simply a drill to get your front hand and back hand in sync while keeping the flashlight moving on a single plane. Most people bring their back hand up, which pushes the barrel down, and then the barrel has to come up, so the barrel's going up and down. And the flashlight drill is just made so that you keep the flashlight on the seam between the wall and the ceiling, and as you track that seam, you mount the gun, keeping the flashlight on the seam. The 3-cup drill Jack's talking about is 95% of success in a shotgun.
Wow.
Yeah, it really is though. It really is.
You have to understand that what the sight pictures look. If you've got the perfect choke, if you've got the perfect load, the perfect stance, the perfect break point, the perfect everything, but if the bird is not on the correct side of the barrel when you pull the trigger, you're going to miss it. Everything from the muzzle to your toes can be an average of 70 to 75% perfect. And if the sight picture is correct, if the bird's on the left side of the barrel and you're matching the speed, you're going to hit the bird. From the right, though, the sight picture is entirely different. You have to look at the bird across the barrel to see it to the right of the barrel. Their two are different. The one coming from the right for the right-hander is the most difficult one. But the 3-cup drill that Jack referred to simply is you put 3 cups up there on the mantle or on a bookcase or on a shelf or a countertop. You look at the middle one and mount to the right one. You look at the middle one and mount to the left one, which begins to train your brain to see the bird behind where the barrel's pointed. And once the brain understands how you want it to interpret the electrochemical impulses from the retina, then it all of a sudden just clicks in, right, Jack?
Right. And the big thing, the middle one, like that's what you're looking at. Like that's what your eyes need to be focused on. And honestly, now that I think about it, if you really, if you could find a way to balance them, even if you use 3 clays, and put 3 clays up there, and then just practice looking at that middle one and the big one, like I was talking about earlier, getting comfortable with feeling uncomfortable at first. Looking over that barrel is an odd feeling, especially, if you're right-handed and you've got a right to left crosser, you're looking over the barrel of your gun. And gosh, like especially for rifle shooters and pistol shooters, you're so used to looking down your sights at the target. It's an odd feeling at first, but then at some point it just kind of clicks and you figure out matching, like we said, match the target speed, and then your subconscious brain kind of it wants to hit the target, and so like from the course, here's some things I never thought I would hear shooting shotguns. Get your head off the comb, right? Like so often, I think all of us grow up with you're getting, like, why'd I miss? Well, you got your head off the gun. It's actually the other way around, right? What's happening is your brain wants to see that target. Your brain is like, if you can't see the target, how are you supposed to hit it? And so I think people naturally want to aim the right way, but then we get taught incorrectly, keep your head on the gun. And in reality, my head is not even on the comb at all. And what's happening is you start easing the gun in, and then, you call pull, your gun's moving as I'm calling pull now. And then I'm just, my eyes on the bird, and then you're bringing it together, and your subconscious brain does the rest, because it figures out your brain's a targeting computer without you realizing it, I think. And you give it some practice, and if you can show your brain the target, then you're going to hit it. So that was a huge takeaway from the course.
The area of the brain that we're using does 2 things automatically. It creates converging lines. Eric, everything you do in life is converging line. When you put those earbuds in your ear, you can't even see your ear, but your brain's done it enough times, you didn't miss your ear, did you?
No.
So everything you do is a converging line. The brain, this layer in your visual cortex creates converging lines and anticipates ahead a minimum of 80 milliseconds. So what we have learned in sequencing these shots is if you can see the bird coming to you with your nose on it, because the bird's coming to the end of the barrel, because the brain's going to bring the barrel and the bird together. As you follow it into the barrel, your face comes into the stock, and then you match the speed. Don't get involved with the distance. The brain will fix the distance. Your job is to create separation on the correct side of the barrel. Glue your nose to that target. You look at if I mount the gun, I'm gonna point right at the camera. If I mount the gun, my nose is pointed 25 to 30 degrees to the right of the barrel. If it's coming from the left, I can't see it. If you were watching a tennis match, are you going to put your nose on the net and watch the ball with your eyes? Are you going to be following the ball with your nose? It's a natural phenomenon to point your nose at what you're looking at. But we're all of our brains are hardwired to see movement in the periphery and direct the nose to the movement. That's the way we're wired, which is great in pistol shooting and rifle shooting and archery. It's great. But when it comes to something that has to be done in the subconscious brain, like throwing a pass to a wide receiver, you nose on the target. So if you want to get the gun mounted, that's fine. Mount the gun to your shoulder. But if you're the trap, I'm going to mount the gun to the shoulder, but I'm going to put my nose over on that bird and I'm going to glue my nose to that target, because that gives the best movement data to this layer in your visual cortex. And as you see that bird closing on the barrel, you start matching speed. When you're matching speed, your right brain, it will fix the lead every time out to about 100 yards. But the thinking brain can't do it. So your left brain, Jack, do you remember how quiet it got when you started doing this in your mind? There was no argument. Do you remember that?
I distinctly, and I remember how you put it. You said, give your conscious brain something to do so your unconscious brain can take over. And, the best analogy you guys had for that was look at the professional baseball player hitting a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Is he looking at his bat when he hits that ball? No. Like, if you're looking at the bat, you will never hit you will never hit the baseball. And it's the same thing, right? We're trying to hit a moving target. Keep your eye on the target, right? So, again, give your conscious something to do.
So you've got two brains. You've got the conscious brain and the unconscious brain. For most people, there's an argument. When the target's in the air, the conscious brain said, it's too close, push out. Unconscious brain says, how far? And he says, I don't know. How's this? Okay, let's try it. Boom. And then they use those words that end in hard consonants because they miss it. There's an argument. But our system is based on tying up and optimizing both sides of the brain. We give the left brain, the conscious brain, a job to do. His job is to keep the bird on the correct side of the barrel, and he gets to call the shot. When the speed's matched, send the message to pull the trigger. The conscious brain can be aware of and orchestrate 40 bits of data per second, which is a lot. Okay. While we're having it call the shot, the unconscious brain, now listen to this number, the unconscious brain can be aware of and orchestrate 11 million bits of data per second. While the conscious brain is keeping it on the correct side of the barrel and matching speed, the unconscious brain will anticipate ahead where that target's going to be, and it will put that barrel there every time, won't it, Jack?
Absolutely. That's it's really it's magical. I thought I was a pretty solid shotgun shooter, and then I realized that more often than not, I was just getting lucky. And I had skill, right? And you do something enough times, eventually your brain kind of puts things together. But now every time I shoot, I have a checklist in my brain that I go through, and not only does that to remind myself of what I need to do to shoot the target, but I'm giving my conscious brain something to do again. And we talked about get your nose on the target. What was interesting is I noticed so many of the shooters at the course, what they do is they put their eye on the target, and like I said, you got to get uncomfortable to kind of get this at first, and they're putting their eyes on the target, and in their brain they think they've got their nose on the target, but they just turn their eyes a little bit. And so like actually get your head off the comb, point your nose at that trap if you can see it or where the clay is going to come out, and let your subconscious brain do the rest. And so, follow-up question, we keep going back and forth between clay target and bird. What so far we've been talking about clay targets the whole time. How much of this applies to upland bird hunting, duck hunting, doves, pheasants? How much of this applies to real birds as well as clay targets?
It's lethal. There's probably 3,500 shot cam shots in our knowledge vault, maybe a little bit more by now. Doves, decoyed pigeons, decoyed ducks, pheasants, quail. The biggest mistake, and I'm going to go to Minnesota Horse and Hunt Club in October and do a seminar for all of their pheasant hunters and talk about this. The biggest mistake we see hunters make is the bird flushes and they're looking at the bird and they mount the gun lightning fast right on the bird. They are at that point behind and they've put the gun in the way. Okay?
Right.
What we would tell you to do is if this is the bird, okay, rather than mounting on the bird, mount under the bird. And as soon as the bird figures out which way it's going to go, just ease the gun to the right wing or ease the gun to the left wing, and you will be shocked at how slow the bird is actually flying. Absolutely shocked. There's 150 quail being shot in the knowledge vault. And we have, here's a big one. We have dog owners all the time that come to us and they've got this expensive dog that's been trained real well, but they can't hit the bird. And so once we show them what they need to do and how to shoot and stop looking down the barrel, they almost cry. I got a text from a lady that was in a clinic 3 weekends ago. She has a dog, and she had tears in her eyes. She said, "I got tears in my eyes. I just shot 9 out of 10 quail over my dog, and I thank you very much. You've changed my life. My dog no longer turns around with that look that every dog knows. Once the dog is gotten beat up, going through the brush, making the point, and all he hears is boom, 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 and he turns around and says, 'What the hell? I'm doing my job, but you learned to shoot.' Well, that's cash flow for Vicky, okay? And every dog out there knows that look, and nobody likes to get that look. So, but everybody's in a hurry. It's the birds don't fly that fast. That one tip, keeping your nose on the bird and slow the mount down and mount under the bird. And whichever way he goes, just east to the right wing or east to the left wing, you'll do a one-shot kill almost every single time.
We've had a really good time shooting these on the range. Walk me through your experience so far.
All guns, all the time.
A pistol's only as good as the trigger. This has a good one. You can't learn everything you need to know at the gun counter with one rack of the slide or one pull of an unloaded firearm. You got to do the slap.
If you're interested in firearms, don't miss this one.
Guns and Ammo TV. Watch now on Outdoor Channel, Sportsman Channel, or My Outdoor TV.
Let me ask you something else. So Jack sometimes comes into town, and we'll take lunch and we'll head out to the skeet range and we'll shoot a couple rounds of skeet before we head back to work. So I always look forward to when Jack comes into the office. But the last few times we've been focusing on maybe one station, one position, trying to improve our results in one area. For me, that's often the crossing station right there in the middle. But I recall you wrote in your book that 70 to 75% of the shots we take are going to be quartering shots. Should we be practicing, 70, 75% of our time at those stations, or should we be trying to improve our performance at those stations that, like the crossing station, or maybe even perhaps shoot an entire round of skeet for the way the game was designed, to benefit. If you've got 50 shells to work with during a lunch period, what's the best way for us to be using those shells?
First, don't shoot pairs. Second, shoot the incoming shot on 1, 2, 3, and 4. And on station 4, shoot the low house because you shot the low house. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Work on watching the bird with your nose, seeing it come to the end of the barrel and matching speed. And then on station 4, shoot the low house and then turn around, shoot the high house. Watch it come to you, then go to station 5, shoot 2 high houses. Station 6, shoot 4 high houses. And station 7, shoot 2 pair and go to station 8. The reason being, I got to back up. Some of the most recent neuroscience has proven that the brain doesn't see like a camera. The eyes don't see, the brain sees. All of your skill, Eric, is in your memory. When you're practicing, you should be creating memory so that you can call on it when it's more important when you're shooting around. So I guess it depends on what your goal is. Is your goal to go out and make fun of Jack because you used to beat him, but you're not going to beat him anymore? Because I've got to fix that. You're going to be the loser. All right. Is the goal to make fun of Jack, or is the goal for you to really improve your game? And where the sporting clays game has taken us from the standpoint of target difficulty is I will always take a person to a crossing target first in a clinic. If I can get a person to see separation on the correct side of the barrel, a going away bird is nothing. I just teach them to mount under it and go up to it. The game of sporting clays has elevated at a level that no one could imagine 40 years ago when it began. And it's because of the new traps that are out there. They can throw a bird 135 yards and not break a target. And so as a result, the target setters have gone to speed and more crossing angles as opposed to quartering angles. If they throw you a quartering angle, it's either going to be extremely fast or it's going to be what we call a floppinator, which comes out fast, but then it just falls in front of you, designed to make you miss it in front. But and on a skeet field, almost all, if you play skeet, the majority of their flight path, which means you're going to have to break the target extremely fast. If you want to improve your ability to recognize sight pictures and match speed, shoot the incoming targets from both sides of the semicircle and shoot a couple of pair on 7 and then go shoot 8. If you're there to shoot skeet, then shoot around the skeet and learn to break those birds quicker out of the house. But as the time, you asked Jack, the first day, we didn't take you to any crossing target where time was limited. You had plenty of time to see the bird with your nose, see it come to you, and match the speed. The second day, we took you to some places where there was less time because you program repetitive sequences in the brain through slow, repetitive movement. So if you're there to train and create memory, the slower you can make the movement come together, the more the brain knows about the sequence, because the eyes don't see like a camera. This is a big deal. This is what caused the change 8 years ago. The eyes don't see like a camera. The brain sees. The brain gets electrochemical impulses that are in a certain sequence and goes to the long-term memory to find similar sequences that it's interpreted in the past and interprets your reality based on what's in your memory. For example, Eric, if you'd never seen a palm tree in your life and you landed in Orlando and I picked you up, and the first palm tree you looked at, you studied it. It's a long, skinny tree. You even went over and touched the bark over there where you get picked up with your luggage. There's a palm tree out there. You touched it, and you intently studied that palm tree. Well, we stay in Orlando and we shoot for 3 days, and I take you back to the airport. You see probably 150 palm trees when we enter the airport in a sequence going to the ticket counter. You don't even look at one of them, but you know that they're palm trees because you created memory of what a palm tree was on the first one you saw when we were in baggage. Okay, so this is how we perceive visually. The core purpose for our visual processing system is prediction. What's coming next? Dr. Dan Labby, one of the greatest sports vision scientists out there. I know him. And so when you studied that palm tree real carefully, you were creating memory. And by the second day, you'd see a palm tree in your periphery over there. And you say, well, that's a palm tree. Okay, because it's an electrochemical sequence emitted by your retina, and the brain interprets it based on similar sequences that it has studied from its memory. It doesn't see like a camera. This shoots the dominance theory right out of the water. It's all, nobody comes out of the womb knowing what it looks like. To focus on the target at 30 yards and get the gun to the right or the left of it. That has to be learned. It's the stumbling baby effect. I'll give my hats off to Jack. He did the 3-bullet drill before he got there. Most people poo-poo the practice. Well, hell, I'm paying you all this money to teach me. Why should I do any homework? Depends on whether you want to get it the first half of the first day or the first half of the second day. Because if it's in your memory, we can massage the memory. But if you have no memory of it, it takes too much conscious thought to do it. And the conscious brain is 0.3 of a second behind real time. If you hit it with conscious lead, you've had to lead it 2/3 as much. It just doesn't work. This is like learning to dribble a basketball without looking at it. The hockey player has to learn to skate forward, sideways, stops on a thin piece of steel. And then he's got to interact with all the team members on both sides and the puck and the stick and get down there and get that puck in that net. Do you realize he can't be thinking? He can't be thinking about his feet. He can't be thinking about the puck. I mean, it's like the radio personality from Nevada, Reno, Nevada, Rick Carter, is been on our website for as long as it's been there. He's been in the coaching hour since we started in November of 2001. We've been doing podcasts since November of 2001, every Wednesday night, once a month. Just do the math. We've been doing them a long time. And he says, if you're thinking, and that's just all there is to it. People have quoted him. We've quoted him in books and in articles, and all the articles we've written. If you're thinking, you're thinking because the thinking brain is behind. You can't do it. You can't, which is the magic that pulls people off the street and makes them want to shoot a 40-cent bullet at a 50-cent target just to try to break it before it breaks when it hits the ground. Now, you talk about something crazy.
Well, let me ask you a couple other things here before we run out of time and lose you today.
Sure.
But one, I'd love to hear your thoughts about ammunition and where technology is today and how that affects our performance. And two, a lot of shotguns offer adjustable triggers, even adjustable. You can move it fore and aft. Do you recommend light triggers, adjusting it down? What is an optimal pull weight before maybe it becomes unproductive?
Trigger position is more important than pull weight.
Okay.
In rifle and pistol and bows, you don't want to know what's going on. You squeeze it real easy because you got to keep the barrel still. In shotguns, when you see the stable picture, jerk that trigger. The gun's got to go now. Okay, so let's just follow me now. Okay, if that's the trigger, if this is the trigger and it's in that joint right there, Watch what happens when I pull the trigger. Do you see how far my finger had to move for me to actually pull the trigger backwards?
Mhm.
And when I release it, now I've got to pull it. If it's right here in the middle of the front pad, the minute I move, the trigger's pulled. So in shotgun shooting, timing's critical. When it's right, you got to send it. There is a common belief out there that if you shoot faster ammo, you don't have to leave the target as much. That's bunk.
Gil, I've got to agree. So for the course, Federal, they sent us 3 cases of their new Masterclass ammo, also new for 2025. And they sent me 3, like they have 3 load offerings in there. I believe they've got a 7.5 and an 8 at 1,300 feet per second. And I believe it's a 7.5 at 12 something. And distance, angle, difference, like within 30 yards, all the plays look the same.
Let me give you the math.
Yeah.
Okay? Let me give you the math. The difference between 1150 and 1350 on a crossing target at 40 yards is 4 inches. The difference in lead. The bead covers up 9 inches. 4 inches difference in lead is not going to get you another target.
Right.
Here's a practical example of that. I was at the 74 Ranch trying to trick the new shot tracker camera out there that tells you where you are and all kinds of stuff. We'll get into that on another podcast. But I shot 12 targets at between 98 and 108 yards crossing with a group of 35 people watching. Measured. I measured it from the ground. I'm shooting the hypotenuse. Okay. That's why it's 108 yards. I shot a crossing target 12 times in a row with a full choke in my gun with 1 ounce 7.5s going 1145. Fiocchi.
Yeah.
Now, the difference in shot shells today versus shot shells when sporting clays first began, dramatic.
Mhm.
The shot's made from old batteries. Premium load, a AA trap load 40 years ago had 3% antimony in it.
Mm.
Premium ammo now has 6% antimony in it. The promo loads were as good as the premium loads 40 years ago because they got 3% antimony in it. The normal person that can't break a 45-yard crosser 10 times in a row can't experience the difference.
Mhm.
Most people are missing behind because they're looking down the barrel. It's the shotgun, the ammo we have today kicks less, has more consistent velocities, and as a matter of fact, I'm the one that Fiocchi years ago when he was the rep for Fiocchi, he said, "I just started at Fiocchi. What can I do to get a niche in this ammo market?" I said, "Stop hiding behind dram equivalency." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Step up to the plate. You got the powders now. Become better at loading loads that are a specific speed. Instead of saying it's a 2 3/4 dram load, which is plus or minus 150 feet a second, okay, 1150, tell them it's 1150. If it's 1200, tell them it's 1200. If it's 1250, tell them it's 1250. But start putting velocities on it because the SAMI specs is 100 feet a second difference is in SAMI specs. I mean, and so Fiocchi was the first one to put velocity on their shot shells, and now what are all of them doing?
Yeah.
Putting the velocity on the shot shells.
Absolutely.
And the velocity is more consistent. The pellets perform more consistently, and anything over 1,200 feet a second is wasted. It increases recoil. and the pattern does not hold together as well.
Gil, all right, next thing for you. I, of course, come from the generation, I read books, I watch those DVDs. My kid doesn't know how to operate a DVD player. How are you going to ensure the next generation continues to listen and learn from your teachings? I mean, and please mention your son Brian, if you don't mind, and what you're doing with him and what we can expect from OSP in the future.
We're in the process right now with Frontier Marketing, putting together lesson packages that people can buy for $15. By the end of the year, we'll have probably 35 lesson packages that people can, if you're having trouble with a left to right 40-yard crosser, for $15, we can show you with the shot cam what procedures you have to go to become more consistent at that distance.
Will there be a prerequisite though to purchasing that package?
That hadn't been decided by the marketing company yet.
Okay.
We'd like to put away. You can have all of it if you join the Knowledge Vault.
Mhm.
For $200, you can have access to everything in there, plus all the podcasts, plus everything. But there are people out there that, for whatever reason, don't want to have to do research and use the search engine. They want it to be simple. So what we're doing is we're going back through all of our coaching hours. There's over 275 of them, and we're pulling out excerpts of most often questions, and we're going to have that as an auditory lesson.
Okay.
If you want to know about how to shore up your mental game, we have a 5-part lesson. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can just do the middle, but it's more to the point. Our search engine in our Knowledge Vault is, I mean, there's so much material in there. There's 16 books. There's 250 podcasts that you can download, auditory or written. There's thousands of videos. There's video tips. There's birds being shot. There's all kinds of clay targets being shot, trap, skeet, all of it. But it's intimidating to a lot of people. In fact, the sleeper on the Knowledge Vault is the forum. The forum has its own search engine. As long as you don't use the word of or the, if you put in left to right crosser, you will find a treasure trove of masterclass shooters that have contributed there. Brian has been working for his mother for over 10 years. Before he went to work for us, he was one of the best target setters in the world. So he knows how to deceive the eyes with a clay target. He's a masterclass shooter. He's an incredible shot. And he has taken to this really well. He's done his homework. He's listens to us teach. Now he does the preamble. In fact, he did the preamble, Jack, when you were there. And gets everybody ready. And when we go do seminars, we do 2 seminars. We're one of the few people who get to do 2 seminars at the Safari Club International Convention every year. And when we do seminars, Brian's the lead instructor. He's going to take this thing over. But the only way he can take it over and make it be something that will support him and his family is for him to be able to do things electronically so he can get one. So, but yeah, he's coming on. If I have a problem and Vicky's not around, he's the first guy I go to.
Well, and Gil, I can vouch for that. I was very pleased. I got to shoot with you on the first day, and then I shot with your son Brian on the second day. And he really took me to, like, you got me on match movement speed, right? Quit looking at the front sight. And then he got me into visualizing the target. That was huge, right? Like he knows it as well as you do, I think. And, like, that was like the next step for me. Once I figured out, okay, I'm matching the movement speed. Now when I walk up to a stage, I call for a pair, let's see them, right? I visualize where they're going to break. And then I have a very set process, load, set, pull, shoot. And then I see the target break, and then I visualize, okay, I saw where it break. That matched what I visualized. And every time I load that shotgun, I do the same thing. And he got me to that point, and so that was, you guys put it together, and that was an incredible experience. And so go ahead, please.
If you can't visualize what you're asking the brain to do, because remember, the brain is putting this circuit together. Once the brain, when you're looking at the target, you follow it with your nose. You look at it twice. The brain says, okay. He goes to the memory and he picks a beginning, the two middle parts, and an ending of 4 different sequences and puts them together perfectly for that target.
Absolutely.
If you cannot visualize where and how you want the brain to bring the shot together, you can't do it.
Absolutely.
All of your skill is in your memory. The brain does, the eyes don't see, the brain sees. The trip to better and better performances is the ability to visualize in greater detail what it is you're asking your brain to do. And it's this whole neurology thing. The eyes don't see, the brain sees, and you don't see like a camera. It's neurological sequences, and the brain goes to the memory to find similar. All of this is new data. A lot of it comes from Dr. Dan Labby. There's a neuroscientist named David Eagleman. If you want to hear some of this stuff explained, David Eagleman is the only neuroscience scientist that I know of that I've tried to study with that can explain neurology at a 6th grade level. And every book and every article we've written, and there's a lot of that there, okay, is written at a 6th grade level. And it just, go to YouTube, search David Eagleman, and if it's 14.2 minutes long, watch it. It's the title is, Can We Create New Senses? Can we create new senses? Watch it. Pay attention between time code 3:30 and 8:40. He talks about how vision is not a picture. Vision is sequences from our retina, and that the brain interprets that. They took a guy that was totally deaf and put a vest of vibrating sensors on him. 2 hours a day for 4 days, he sat in front of a whiteboard, and the microphone was hooked up to those sensors, and the lab tech would say a word, and then he would write the word on the board. After the second day, the lab tech would say any word he wanted to say, and based on the vibration sequences, this guy who had never heard a thing could hear through the sequences and would write the name right correctly what the guy just said.
Wow.
Now, dude, do you hear what I'm telling you?
That's crazy. That's hard to process. Yeah.
I mean, and after 4 days, he could write. He could, the lab tech could say any word he wanted to. He'd write it on the board. The guy's hearing through vibrating sensors, but the brain is very good at understanding sequences and extracting meaning from those sequences, and the meaning is our reality visually.
Gil, you've given us so much to think about today. Honestly, this is one that you might have to watch twice just to process everything. And I want to say, maybe the greatest thing after 35 years of teaching the sporting shotgun, the passion that you still speak with, it thrills me. And so, Gil Ash,
Hold on a minute.
Go ahead, Eric.
Let me interrupt you here. One of my favorite things, I just love to help end it with this. You have written in your book in the beginning, life is a shotgun. A true shotgunner always reloads for another try. And Gil, you've been inspiring. I'm going to have to revisit your course material again and get better and reload for another try at it myself and see if I can't keep up with the newfound skills you've given Jack. And can't thank you enough for joining us on the Guns and Ammo Buzz podcast.
Gil Ash of the Optimum Shotgun Performance School. I cannot recommend the travel clinics enough. You absolutely should do your homework before going. It makes all the difference. You're going to pay a lot of money for that travel clinic. And so that optimize your time that they have with you. And so, and then we very much hope you'll join us again. Vicky and Brian are more than welcome on the Guns and Ammo Buzz podcast. Gil Ash, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure we'll have you on again soon.
See it behind the barrel and match the speed, baby. Talk to you later.